na vasyate kinchit heyopadeya rupiyat siyate sakalam tyaktva tada chintam na jayate. When nothing whatsoever, appearing as fit to be abandoned or fit to be acquired, is lodged in the mind, and it remains having renounced everything, then it does not arise.
Yes. So, this mind, this ignorance, this issue, this foundation of ego, when one comes to a place where there's nothing to be achieved, nothing. How do we come to this? When we fundamentally quit believing the mind itself. My favorite practices, I cannot think a real thought. I have no thoughts and feelings of my own. None of it belongs. And the mind easily stays. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Sarvam anta parityajya chitalasha yavartiyat vrittisthamapi tacchittam asatrupam udahritam. That mind is declared to be of non-existent nature, which, having given up everything within, abides in its cool resting place or retreat, though existing in its course or movement.
Yes. So the non-existent mind does not mean that you're in some stupefied state, drooling in your diaper. It's not what it means. Again, in other verses, we've had the paradigm. 3 thoughts make up the problematic part of the mind. Jiva bhavana, I think I'm a person. The world name and form is real. Joy giving and misery producing. Separate from me. And kartavya, my struggle towards those goals. I give that up. That's the end. Then even if the mind throws up some piece of nonsense, you know how to believe. I love the metaphor that Ibn Arabi, no, it isn't Ibn Arabi, I think it's Hafiz. We have to think of this out in the deserts of the Middle East, where a little dust devil comes up in the desert. A little tiny whirlwind, and then it just dissipates. A little annoyance, a little agitation. Then this wonderful world we get in this text, Shiva. It's cool. Way ahead of the big boys. Just use those stages. Have this shunya chitta, this emptiness. Next one.
Drashta bijo pamayesham vasana rasa varjita achitta iti kathyante jivan mukta hi te sthita. They are declared to be free from the mind, whose mental impression or knowledge derived from memory is destitute of taste or liking, and resembles a roasted seed in its inability to sprout. They are indeed liberated while living.
Yes. Sir, no?
No.
Okay. So he's used the word vasana, which is an impression left in the unconscious as the result of previously performed egoistic actions. It's the qualities of I-ness and my-ness. Remember, the first power of a vasana is Varanashakti, the non-apprehension of my essential nature. Then all the stupidity of egoism. That's the top. That person who's free spiritually. So the mind never extroverts into the world seriously thinking, need this, gotta change that, it'll be okay if this happens, fall into some of this if this doesn't happen. All of that stuff falls. I was talking with someone today, and one of the subjects that came up was they feel poor. This person's been in school a long time. His wife's going to have a baby. So he's concerned. You know, his mind is beginning to scheme, to try to find ways to make sure there's enough money. And this is not uncommon. Many of us have this. We labor under the belief that somehow more money will deal with the real issue. The real issue is fear. Fear of financial insecurity. And I have news for you. If you have that fear, that klesha, that affliction, no amount of zeros after your income. Krishna says no one is more fearful than a wealthy man. How do we get rid of the fear? Well, I would start by looking to direct empirical evidence. Have you ever been without a roof over your head? Do you have food to eat? God's done his job. Fine. All that anxiety about the future. And what's going to happen with money, like any other energy? It goes up. It goes up. We want to have peace of mind. Independent from circumstances. Any thoughts on this?
Jim, how do you reconcile this with still pursuing goals, still having plans?
Well, see it like you are in a play. So if you're an actor in a play, learn your lines, play your character, you do the best you can. You may be the king in the play, you may be the villain in the play. You may be the one who's the hero and rescues the damsel, you may be the villain. The equipment just fulfills its role, and making plans, having ambitions, etc., like all that stuff. That's all part of a particular role in the arena. Script writer, yeah. It's like those situation comedies where the actors show up for a shoot, and the producer says, "We've changed the script. Here's the new script. Oh, by the way, your character's been eliminated. You get killed in this scene." So hold it light. That's all. Wear your life like a loose script. Does that make sense? That was helpful.
Oh, it was.
Phony renunciation is, oh, this upsets me so much, I'm going to give it up. Attachment is, this is what I need, I want to have this, blah, blah, blah. No, go for it. Always understand. Peace of mind is independent. All right, next verse.
वासना वशत प्राण स्पन्दतेन च वासना जायते चित्तबीजस्य तेन बीजाङ्कुरक्रमः एकस्मस्तु तयो क्षीणो क्षिप्रं द्वे अपि नश्यतः. The movement of prana or vital energy happens under the influence of mental impressions. Also, mental impression is gathered through the movement of prana or vital energy. By that, there arises the succession of seed and sprout to the mind, which is the seed. When one amongst those two is worn away, even the two are speedily destroyed.
So, which is better? Taking on the path of the Raja Yogi, doing pranayama to control these movements of the mind, or forget all that. Jnana yoga, self-inquiry, renunciation. And Vasistha here says, yes, both are effective. With a caveat. We talked about this last week and maybe the week prior. If you do your asana and your pranayama, and when you're finished with your practice, still let your mind have its attachments and identification, all you're going to get is what we call a jada samadhi. You may huff and puff and hyperventilate and have an ecstatic experience. Vasana is still there. Both Raja Yoga and Jnana Yoga meet where we begin to do Yasa Vairagya. Intense practice of meditation. And any thoughts on this? Next one.
Section 2. Asamvedanam, absence of knowing or experiencing. Samvedhanam etayoho bijam tyatyagatat. Samvedam etayo bijam tatyagat nashyati dvayam. Samvedam vidhi samvedya bijam rama taya vina na sambhavati samvedam tailahi tilo yatha. What is known or experienced is the seed or cause of these two, movement of vital energy and mental impression. By the renunciation of that or the known, both movement of vital energy and mental impression perish. Rama, understand knowing or experiencing as the seed or cause of the known or the experienced. Without that knowing or experiencing, the known or the experienced does not arise or exist, just as the sesame seed does not exist without the oil.
So, what do we mean by this? The cause of identification, the vimarsha, the deliberation of the mind, ultimately has its root. Talked about this earlier. I think I'm a person, and I take the world of name and form as separate from it. Let's talk about what that process is. I can't remember if in this class we've gone in depth into what Shankara calls anyonya adhyasa. Have we done that? Zoomies, have we done that? Okay.
I don't recall all the Sanskrit terms.
Okay, anyonya adhyasa means mutual superimposition. What it
I don't believe
means,
I've heard that.
in my ignorance, I superimpose upon myself the qualities of the not self. That's one superimposition. The second one is I superimpose upon the world of name and form, the not self, the qualities of the self. What does that mean? It means aham brahmasmi, what I am is Brahman, a ground of being, witnessing consciousness. But in spiritual ignorance, I think I'm my body, or I think I'm my body plus my personality. That's one superimposition. But what do I do with this world? First, I think that the world of name and form, of people and of objects, has sucked separate from me. Vinayak is over there. The table is over there. Saundarya is over there. My nature is existence, son. There's the ego. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about yourself. That is every. So I, in my mind, think people, places, things, and conditions have existence. Chit. I externalize consciousness. Vinayak is a conscious being over there. Oh, that is very smart. Saundarya is a conscious being. Oh, well, her opinions are kind externalized chit. And I think it's malleable, mutable, has forms and stuff like that. Really speaking, when I look into your eyes, the being that's looking back is myself, myself. We're not individual little globs of consciousness. And then the most tragic, myself is bliss absolute. When the mind revels in myself, oh, so but then I externalize that. It makes me happy. It makes me annoyed. Joy and the absence of joy, sorrow is external. So I had mutual superimposition. I superimpose upon the self the qualities of the non-self. And I superimpose upon the non-self qualities of the self. Now, let's go deeply into the Vedantic notion of perception itself. Easiest way to understand this is to go to the dream state. Our experience in the dream state, I have a dream body. In that dream body, I have a dream ego, but it's also a locus of perception. It becomes the people from which I look out at the dream world. Dream world has people, places, things, and conditions which seem separate and other. That's our experience in the dream state. But upon awakening, if I examine the dream state, dream body, ego, the dream senses, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and the objects of the senses, things seen, heard, taste, touch, and smell, all just this is no different. Yet there are enormous ramifications of this. All of this world comes about by means of sun color. Whose sun color? That's a really good question. Say it's all the Lord. Say it's all the total mind. Say at least your limited experience of the world is nothing but your sun color. Or true. But there's no world out there separate from outside of consciousness. When the woman of wisdom sees this, please start by being open to that as a possibility. The world is not as we think. So those of us who've read I Am That, Sargadatta Maharaj, goes into this in talks so clearly about the entire phenomenal world without exception. He uses the word Chaitanya. It's all just various play, forms of the play of consciousness, states of consciousness. None of it is real. All just imagination. Substract, the background, is kutusta, motionless, like mountain. Like the screen when you go to the movie theater. Hot weather, everybody's going to the movies. Whether it's a situation comedy, whether it's an action film, whether it's a Stephen King horror film, the screen just is. There's no people up there. It's just the play of pixels, the play of light. This is just like the screen is sleeping, it's still. Screen of consciousness, which is Satchitananda, actually never. Next verse.
Samvedanam anantaya dukkhaya jananatmane asamvitti ajadyastha sukhaya jananatmane. Knowing or experiencing is for or productive of endless sorrow, consisting of or of the nature of birth. Absence of knowing or experiencing, abiding in a state free from dullness, is for or productive of happiness, consisting of or of the nature of freedom from birth.
So, Amma Satyam Jagan Vidya. Brahman alone is real. The world of name and form, the Jagat. Vidya. Seen, but not real. If I take it as real, this is what we mean by knowing it or experiencing it. That person is terrible. They did this to me. Oh, that event is wonderful. I am so happy. Then it causes the mind to create this ego sense, us, egoism. Then we start the rat race. So Swamiji used to shout at us, "Shut up and get out." Stop. Out. Quit believing. Let it just play. like, seen. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Sri Rama Vacha असंवित्ते अजाड्यस्था कीदृशी भवति प्रभो असंवित्तौ च जाड्यन्तत् कथं वा विनिवर्तते. Sri Rama said, Revered Lord, of what nature is absence of knowing or experiencing? When there is absence of knowing or experiencing, how possibly does that dullness cease?
So, let's go down to this jeep. I have the absence of knowing and experiencing every night in deep sleep. Do I do all this tapas to be a yogi when I continuously think too? And isn't this being in Nirvikalpa Samadhi all the time? Of all these stories of the saints, so and so was in Samadhi for 12 years or 10,000 years. Is that what we're supposed to be doing? Or we see other Mahatmas who are active in the world. So this ending of the mind, this manonamsha, must be something subtle. Let's see what the Sishta says. Going on.
Vasishta Uvacha Ya sarvatranavasthastho vishrantastho na kutrachit जीवो न विन्दते किंचित् असंवित् अजडो हि सः जीवन्मुक्त सविज्ञेय कुर्वन् कार्य शतान्यपि. He who has no settled support or means of abiding everywhere, nor has reposed stay anywhere, that liberated soul does not recognize or experience anything of the known. He is not knowing or experiencing, but is not dull, since he is of the nature of pure undivided consciousness. He ought to be known as liberated while living, though doing hundreds of acts.
Yes.
There's a note.
Where?
The liberated one does not seek the known. His mind does not rest in the known. It has no prop or support anywhere. It abides in pure awareness, freed from the past and without creating the future.
Very clear. How does he achieve this, or she? How does she achieve this? By no longer believing the mind. No longer investing in the data the senses report. Being unattached as the body, mind, intellect moves among the objects of the world. There's a difference between planning and worrying. Make your plans for the future. Business, vacation, finance. But worrying about the future. If this doesn't happen, I won't be happy. Now, frankly speaking, Many yogis I know don't do a whole lot of planning either. For Swamiji, basically, it was other people who did the planning. Swamiji, we'd like you to come to such and such a place. Can you fit it into your calendar? Next year. So he was responding to the desires. Oh, Swamiji, your giving lectures were so fabulous. I hear so and so. Do you think you could turn this into a book? That's how basically all his books were written. Just transcriptions of his songs and then edited. He had Shurya Chitta and even to the point he didn't care whether he went to die. My friend Vilasni was telling me that when Swamiji had his first heart attack, she was there outside the hospital room, sitting on the floor, and someone came by and said, "Oh, you were there in meditation, fight off, Lord." Then, towards the end of his life, when he was so frail and so ill, he said to my friend Isabel, "Oh, the Lord is calling me, but my disciples won't let me go. Our desire." One of the other images Shankara will use, the difference between a dead leaf and a moth. It's brown. If there's a breeze, the leaf will be floating around. If there's a moth, it flutters around. They look so similar. One is dead. The other is desiring. Woman steady wisdom. Or our desire. Someone once gave a talk. He was talking about his business plan for life. He was 25, he wanted to accomplish this. He was 35, he wanted to be here. 45, he wanted to be there. He had a business plan for life. My response is, well, I'm the ball bearing in God's pinball machine. With the paddles. Find out. No, I where I lived up. And God has given me everything I ever knew I really wanted. It's a rich, full life. all the journeys. Next verse.
समस्त वासनां त्यक्त्वा निर्विकल्प समाधितः आनन्दित्वं भवेद्यच्च तद्यन्त विलीयते. Having renounced all mental impressions, even that state of bliss which arises from nirvikalpa samadhi for absorption in absolute consciousness is dissolved within.
Yes. So there is a stage in our unfold. First, we have what Shankara will call savikalpa samadhi. Mind is moved up. Practice, we're there as the meditator. Drop, drop, let go. One by one, snipping those threads attached. Last attachment. So mind slips. Then when the mind turns, it's absolutely transformed. Go beyond the shadow of a doubt. Then you may enjoy the bliss of deep meditation of samadhi. Now we need to give up our attachment. So you cannot renounce something you haven't got. It's very important to easily have the trick of the yogi to rob the world and have a non-mediated experience. If not, your mind will still be extroverted into the world. The world will still grab you. Why? What I call the ruthless rule of the mind. The mind will return to the experience that's given it the greatest joy. And if there's something in the world that's given you the greatest joy, the mind's going to go there. And it gets subtle. It can be like attention or approval or the need to be right. It doesn't necessarily have to be an object. Once samadhi is easy, let go of your attachment. Then we have what Tripura Rahasya calls sahaja samadhi, natural or continuous samadhi. Know what the mind is. I know. Next verse.
Jado Kalitananda Yakta Samvedana Sukhi Tare Dukham Buddhi Buddheha Param Apara Gunasagaram. The one who is not dull, whose bliss has dropped, who is renounced knowing or experiencing, and is at ease, shall cross over to the farther shore of the ocean of sorrow, wherein lies the inexhaustible sea of excellence.
Jagaha, jago, is what he says, not inert or dull. And even drop the bliss. They may be seen to meditate. It's not add to the knowledge. Enjoy it. It arises. Nothing left to do. Nothing left to be accomplished. Find the empties. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Athasya sambido rama sanmatram bijamuchyate Verupam tatra sattaya nana chaikamiti smrite. Rama, mere existence is said to be the seed or origin of this knowing. In that, there are two forms of existence declared as the one and the manifold.
Going on.
Ghatata, patata tatta, tvatta meti kathyate, satta rupa vibhagena, yattat nana kriti smritam. What is declared as the state of a vessel, cloth, that you and me, on account of the division in the form or nature of existence, that is considered to be of manifold appearance.
So, what is existence as we think of it with the world? The chair exists, the table exists, a piece of cloth exists, a tree exists, etc. So that's the existence of the manifold world. If I believe it really exists as separate from consciousness, I think this is just going to say it becomes problematic. Let's see what the other kind of existence is.
Vishesham samparitajya sanmatram yat alepakam ekarupam maharupam tattaya tatpadam viduhu. Having completely abandoned all distinction, that which is stainless and is of the nature of pure existence is known as the abode of existence, having one form of extensive nature.
So, the real existence is myself. Now, one of my favorite verses in Gita is second chapter, verse 16. And I'm forgetting how the Sanskrit goes. Nasapovidyate bhava nabhavo. Can't remember the rest of it now. Anyway, the essence of it. Vyasa, our poet, plays with these two words, sat and bhava. Sat means existence, something that is. Bhava means being. So in our ordinary conversation, we would say the chair exists, the lamp exists, the table exists, the child of a barren woman doesn't exist. That's imagination. The horns of the hare don't exist. That's imagination. What we would call the real world with a small r, as opposed to things that you just imagine. They don't exist. Set that on the shelf. Then we have the discussion about being. We make a distinction between things and being. Vinayak is a being. Punit is a being. If there were a doggy here, that would be a being. The table is a thing. The chair is a thing. Things and beings, which exists and does not. What the verse says, that which doesn't exist has no being. There is no non-being of what really exists. So what Gita is saying is only Bhava is Sat. Where is it's yourself? How do you know you are you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself. Yet you are. You know you are. It's self-evident. Swayambhu. So you not only are Bhava, but you are Sat. But then the verse implies anything that is not the subject is like the horns of the hare. It has neither form nor sight. All names and forms without exception. False. Pratibimba, like reflections in the mirror. But is. You are undeniable, unnegatable. And in fact, if you take the time, quiet in the mind, inquire into that self, see never ever change. Christian Bible says, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. fiddle with the verb. I is the same yesterday. All right, how many more in this section?
There's a few more.
Okay. That's something.
Satta samanya matrasya ya koti paramavati saivasya jagato bijam yattasyahi jayate. That which is the climax and ultimate limit of the totality of existence is the seed of this world, for which reason the world is indeed born from that ultimate existence.
So, here's an important question. Where is the locus of Maya? Many people think, oh, Maya is ignorance that occurs in my mind. No. The locus of Maya is Brahman. Your mind is the result of Maya. Because of Maya, you have a body, mind, intellect, and in that intellect you have your personal avidya, ignorance. But Maya is an inherent power of consciousness. No one can say why. People try to anthropomorphize the infinite. Oh, God's lonely and wanted to, have company. Nonsense. Nobody knows what happens. Consciousness. Projects. Infinite. And then veils the minds and the beings in that universe so that they think it's real. Individuals can see what's really going on. Generation. Any thoughts on this? Consciousness is the seed.
The question of who created consciousness also cannot be answered.
It's not created. All right, next verse.
तत्हेतु सर्वहेतूनां तस्य बीजं न विद्यते ससार सर्वसाराणां तस्मात् सारो न विद्यते तस्मिन् शावगते चेत शान्ति आपनोति नैष्टिकीम्. That is the cause of all causes. There is no cause or origin for it. That is the essence of all essences. There is no substance beyond that. When that is known, the mind attains lasting or perfect tranquility.
So the buck stops. What is that? This is the wonderful definition of the word Vedanta. Veda Anta. What is the end of knowledge? What is that? by which everything is known, without which nothing can be known, on which there is nothing to know. There's the end. The ultimate knower, Kshetranya, the knower of the field, in all kshetra. And the philosophical class. Next one.
Sri Rama Uvacha Etani Tani Proktani Tvaya Bijani Manada Katam Asya Prayogena Shigram Asadhyate Padam. Sri Rama said, Sage, these causes or origins are the ones mentioned by you. By the practice of which of these many is the supreme abode reached quickly?
So, what's the shortest path to reaching this abode, this self-realization, this end of knowledge? Going on.
Vashishta Uvacha Etesham Dukkha Bijanam Proktam Yat Tatmayottaram Tasya Prayogena Shigram Asadhyate Padam. Of these seeds or causes of sorrow, whatever has been mentioned by me subsequently, by the practice of that state in preference to the earlier, the supreme abode is reached quickly.
I'm not sure what it means. I think he means by all these various means, pranayama and self-inquiry, intense violence, discrimination. Going.
Satta samanya kotisthe dragrityeva padeyati paurushena prayattena balat santyajya vasanaha ti bandhasi chet sadhu padam prapnoshi takshane. Having renounced all mental impressions forcefully by manly effort, if you fasten or fix your natural state forthwith to the abode that is at the limit of the totality of existence, then you will attain verily at that moment the perfect abode of undivided consciousness or pure being.
So stop the mind. The way I frame it is keep meditating, keep renouncing. Paurushena, manly effort, I'm not sure I would translate. Self-effort, by means of self-effort. Finally, when your mind is still enough, see a thought arise out of silence, merge back into silence. Or another thought starts arising. In that space between, introvert the attentive thought. See if you could notice who or what sees the thoughts and the space between. There's nothing there. Vast and empty. That it's not zero. It is Purna. It's full. Sat exists. Some nature of wow. Next one. How many more have we got? It's almost 9 o'clock. Two more. We'll make it.
Satta samanya rupeva karoshi sthitatim cheta tatkim chida nikaine naiva yatne napnoshi tatpadam. Or if you abide in your nature, which is identical with pure existence, then you will attain that state of liberation only with a little greater effort.
So just keeping the mind absorbed in the self, not letting it extrovert into the world. For those who have subtle minds, it doesn't take a lot. And those things are karmic. Those things are. Some of us have to work harder than others. And the last one.
Samvit tattve kritadhyano yadi tishtasi raghava tat tadye nadhike nauchai cha asadayasi tatpadam. Raghava, if you abide in the principle of consciousness with meditation accomplished, then you will reach that state of liberation with much greater effort. There's a note. The 3 verses above describe the process of freedom from the known and identity with absolute reality in the decreasing order of perfection. Number 1, complete renunciation of all mental impressions, transcendence of the totality of existence instantaneously, and abidance in the one pure being. 2, identity with one's inmost nature, which is pure existence or being, leading to transcendence of individuality and abidance in the one undifferentiated existence or being. 3, transcendence of thought and abidance in the existence consciousness, which ultimately leads to the loss of individuality and absorption in the one pure existence or being.
Any thoughts or questions? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hari